You're listening to Pato's Powerhouse.
Hello there. Can I inquire, who are you voting for in 2020? I'm voting for Pato the Ghost Rider. Gosh, freaking idiots.
Pato's Powerhouse. You're listening to Pato's Powerhouse. Pato's Powerhouse.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's podcast. This is Pato the Ghost Rider, aka Pato Morningstar, thanking you for tuning in because, well, we all know you have many options. Big shout out to everyone in the podcast movement, everybody that I've interacted with. I mean, I have to admit that answering some of those questions brought back that feeling that I felt almost 2 years ago when I hit the record button on the mic for the first time ever. It was incredible feeling because, well, K-Dog, who was the original man with the master plan, he was talking about podcast this, podcast that for years. But, most of us were busy and... or it just, I don't know, it was something totally new to us. I wish I would have jumped in. I wish I would have listened to him, 2-3 years ago? Well, no, we did 2-3 years ago, but no, I mean before, because now it would have been like 4 or 5 years now that we would have been doing this. But about 2 years ago, I was going through a very dark time in my life. I lost a man I called my father, It's funny because August I had lost an uncle, and then September I lost my father. So I was going through a very dark time, and right around the end of November, early December, here comes K-Dog again talking to me about podcast this, podcast that, and I got the perfect name for the podcast, and okay, for some reason I just said, okay, let's go for it. And I started looking into it, and I found this app that's become the home of the Podcast Shack, which it didn't start out as the Podcast Shack. In fact, the first podcast I ever did, I didn't even name it. I just signed up for an account with Spreaker, and I signed up as Pato the Ghost Rider because originally I was just going to ghost write material for my buddy K-Dog, so he could talk smack on cursory overload, and so I wouldn't get in trouble at home for spitting out explicits and saying all kinds of shit. However, things worked out a different way. It went from me just trying to write material to becoming the co-host, to becoming I don't know, hey, let's face it, we are cursory overload. It's something awesome. It's pretty cool. I can sit there. We just shoot the shit. And before we were in the same city. Now he's all the way out in the East Coast. But anyway, what I was saying, if I'm saying anything, is that those questions that people ask, people that are thinking about starting their podcast. I mean, I answered one question that brought me back to a point in time when we were first starting. I guess the question was like, I'm getting ready to record my first episode ever, and the person was asking for topics, and basically I remember telling them a short version, obviously on the app, or it's a text message kind of, they're on the Facebook page of the podcast movement. I remember telling them that my first podcast ever was a rant I did because I was working, like I always am, because that Pato is one of your hardworking, friendly neighborhood, foul-mouthed podcasters. But I was working, and it was a cold night, and we were at the break room waiting to get coffee, and it was like 7 of us, and the guy in front of me took the last of it and then just put the pot right back there. He didn't even bother to turn off the machine, definitely didn't bother to make another one. And I just went off on that. And I remember that I was like, I used the word motherfucker so many times that Sam Jackson would have been proud of me. And then I went on to talk about how I think that Sam Jackson has taken the word motherfucker to another level. I mean, when he says it, it's art. I mean, it may be offensive when one of us says motherfucker, but when Sam Jackson calls somebody a motherfucker, you should feel, how can I say this, blessed? You should feel honored that Sam Jackson called you a motherfucker. I'm just saying, if I'm saying anything. Well, bottom line is, it brought me back to that one day when I took the plunge and I hit the record button. I also ended up deleting that button because back in the day when we first started doing this, people that didn't understand what we were doing said, oh, so many cuss words, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And in order to put an end to that, I hit the delete button. So I deleted my first podcast ever. And I regret that. I wish I hadn't. For a while there, like I said, I started off as Pato the Ghostwriter Show, and I didn't even name it. I just signed up for an account as Pato the Ghostwriter, so automatically it became Pato the Ghostwriter Show, and I just went with that. And then eventually Cursory Overload came online, and we recorded our first 2 episodes, which totally sucked, so we took them off. Well, they don't totally suck, actually. It's just that we had no clue what we were doing, and not that we do now. But all I'm saying is that I think we sound a little bit much more professional now than we did in those 2 episodes. And K-Dog and I were thinking about releasing them, because I still have them saved in my laptop, re-releasing the first 2 episodes for our 2nd anniversary. So you could hear all the you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I know what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Oh, sorry. I was watching a YouTube video. It's a mock interview of Weird Al Yankovic interviewing Eminem. It's not new. It's been around for a while, but it was funny because that little section there where Eminem's like, you know what I'm saying? And then Weird Al's like, yes, I know what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? Yes, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Typical Weird Al mannerisms. Okay, so that being said, thank you for letting me go back in time and reminisce and tell you about the first time Pato. Oh, I also told the story of how I got nicknamed Pato, which some of y'all that haven't been around me for the last 12 years of my life, when I started working at the place where I met K-Dog, there was this asshole that was always messing with me and picking on me and or trying to make my life. But you see, I paid him no mind because he wasn't that important for me to pay any attention to him. So we had this other cat who we will call Napoleon, just because I guess he didn't like it, but so anyway, bottom line is he was cool people, man. He's a truck driver now, and he's out there trucking, delivering stuff that we use, I guess. So, or maybe not. But bottom line, this dude witnessed how I guess I was doing something, and that asshole said something to the effect, about time you do something around here. And he looked at me, he's like, why do you put up with this shit, man? I would have punched him in the throat. I'm like, you know what? I don't give a shit. He's not important enough for me to worry about what he says. So he's like, dang it, dude. You're just like a freaking duck. Everything just slides off your back. So all night long that night, the place where we worked, we used radios. You could hear throughout the night people going, duck, 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 duck. And then eventually, the fact that I'm a Latino, he's like, well, since he's Latino, we'll duck, we're gonna start calling him Mr. Pato. And eventually the Mr. disappeared and it's just Pato. And sometimes with K-Dog is, hey, pinche Pato, which I think that's all he knows how to say. I don't know, we'll find out. Okay, so yeah, that's I just wanted to bring that up. I also wanted to tell you that Rebellion, 3 episodes deep now. We're moving along. Daygard. It's leading the rebellion, against boredom, and talking to you about movies and all these neat video games and all these things. Also, there's a box of comic books that I ordered, which I have no idea what's in that box, but we're going to open it in the next episode, and we're going to look at the magazines and find out magazines, comic books. Please don't shoot me. Anyway, all I'm saying is that that should be a lot of fun. So episode 4 of Rebellion, we're going to open the box and see what's in the box. Gosh, I really hope it's not a whole bunch of free Dippy Duck little water safety or water conservation magazines. And only those who know Dippy Duck will get the reference. All right. Okay, so wow. Cursory Overload episode 43 is up there, 1043 or 43, where K-Dog and I got together and we answered 10 random questions that he came up with as a way for you to get to know us better. We're tired of being who the fuck is you. We want to be a household name. We want to be your friendly neighborhood foul mouth podcasters. When we go to your town, hey, K-Dog and Pato are coming. We want you to go out there and support us and spend time with us and maybe, I don't know, shoot the breeze, Q&A, I don't know. Talk about movies, maybe. I don't know what it is. What it is that Cursory Overload is what's going to take us to that level, but you're witnessing as we're going and growing, so stay tuned. Big things are coming. Another thing, well, this is your bite-sized podcast where I inform you about this, and I share things like what I shared earlier. I mean, that just brought me back to that. God, I was so energized. I was like recording one a day, and I was just going full speed, and then we hit a slump. And that's where we lost most of our audience. I mean, we were doing good. And I tell you, all you future podcasters, man, be consistent. I used to focus a lot on the statistics. I don't now. I'm trying to focus more on the content, bring the listeners something that they can relate to. And in this case, for podcasters, this episode is dedicated to everyone who wants to be a podcaster. So you want to be a podcaster. Well, all I'm saying is, if you're thinking about it, do it. I mean, do it. I mean, I know I always complain that everyone and their freaking dog has a podcast, but you know what? There's plenty of room for everybody. You go out there, do your thing, man. Do that thing that's special. And, you might get lucky and you might become a big, bright star. Or then again, do it for the fun of it. I mean, for us, we're almost 2 years, and we're still who the fuck is you. Nobody knows who Pato and K-Dog is. Well, maybe all of our 3 listeners, but thank you for listening. But all I'm saying, if I'm saying anything, is if you get a chance to do a podcast, by all means do it. It's fun. And like I said, we do it for fun. We have a good time. I sit there, I talk to my friend who's over in the East Coast, and I'm over here in the Valley of the Sun. So we talk about what's going on over there, what's going on over here, and we talk about movies, and obviously we're going to get involved into doing a lot more because, we have to take it to the next level. But till then, it's crazy. 2 years, we've gone from having 2 random podcasts to I don't know, we got the Podcast Shack, which like our Facebook page. I don't know if you're on Facebook, like our Facebook page is obviously facebook.com/Garshack or at the Garshack. Well, you know what I'm saying. You guys are computer savvy. Alrighty then. So now that I said that, I just want to thank you for listening. I'm very grateful, as always. This is Pato the Ghost Rider telling you, vote for Pato, by the way. I had enough of these clowns. I'm running for president. So vote for Pato. And I promise you this, that, and the other thing too. All right? That's one of my campaign's promises. I don't know what this, that, and the other thing too, but that's we're going ahead with that. So vote for Pato, and